We finished Unit 5, so let's make sure we're ready for the test. So here's the practice test. Let's just go through and make sure that we're showing all our work and thinking and make sure that we circle our answers. Show everything we need to make sure that whoever is correcting it knows that we know exactly what we're doing. So let's take a look at number 1. It says, what is the slope and the y-intercept of the following? Notice it's got the m and the b there. So let's put this in the right format and then we'll be all set to go. So I'm going to move the 2x to the other side by subtracting 2x from both sides. Those are going to make a 0, so I have negative 4y on this side. And then again, we write the x term first. We'll write the constant on the end, and then I'm going to divide both of these by negative 4. So if I divide by negative 4, and again, I'm kind of splitting up the work here, skipping that step where we write the big long fraction bar and then break it into two pieces. I'm just dividing both sides, every term on both sides, by negative 4. So these are going to cancel, so I get y equals negative divided by negative is a positive, and 2 over 4 would be 1/2. So I have 1/2 x, and then again a negative divided by negative is a positive, so I end up with a positive 2 right here. So that is the slope-intercept form, and that's kind of the work, but the answer on this one is just saying what the slope and the y-intercept are. So the slope on this one is 1/2, and the y-intercept on this one is 2. There's our answer. So here's our work, there's our answer. This next one says write the slope-intercept form of the line that has the following slope and y-intercept. Notice it says the slope is this and the y-intercept is this. They're basically giving us the answer right here. So as long as you remember y equals mx plus b, this is going to be negative 2/3 x, and then plus b is 5. We're going to circle that and we're done. So those first two are pretty darn quick. The next couple say graph the following equations. This one is already written in slope-intercept form, so let's just make sure we get this right. Here's our anchoring point. We always start with the y-intercept, so it's going to cross right here. And then the slope is negative 3/4. That's a rise of negative 4 and a run of 3. So we're going to go down 4 and then we're going to run 3. We're going to go down 4 and we're going to run 3. If you need to count those off, be my guest. We're going to go down 4 and we're going to run 3. So we're going to put a point right there. And then going the other way, it's always a good idea to put a couple of these. I'm going to be looking for these points when I grade this, just to make sure that you're doing this right. So we're going to go up 4 and then back 3. Up 4 and then back 3. So it looks something like this. So as long as we've got those points there, again, we're going to draw this as straight as we possibly can, right to the edges, put arrows on the ends, and then we're all set. Next one. This one is not in slope-intercept form, so let's get it there. Let's move that 2x to the other side. So I'm going to write this as negative 3y equals, again, writing this in the correct order. Then we're going to divide everything by negative 3. Every term on both sides by negative 3. So we're going to have y equals, this would be 2/3 x, and then this is going to be positive 4. So that's where this one crosses the y-axis. So we're going to grab this. And I'm going to do that in a dotted circle because this is part of the work here, but it's not really the answer. It did say graph this. So we need to cross at 4, and then the slope is 2/3. So we're going to rise 2 and we're going to run 3. Rise 2 and run 3. You don't need to get really carried away with those points. Just do a couple of them on each side. So instead of going up and right, we're going to go down and left, down and left, down and left. Nice straight line connecting those. Really easy to tell that this one crosses at 4 and has a slope of positive 2/3 because it's not very steep. This one crosses at positive 2 and has a negative slope that's pretty steep, negative 4/3, a little steeper than that slope of negative 1 that just is that perfect 45 down from left to right. Next couple of problems here. It says write an equation for the following graph, context, table, or pattern. So whether they describe a situation or give us a graph or whatever it is, we've got to be able to write down an equation for that. So I'm going to start with this graph right here. It crosses the y-axis at 2, so that's kind of like its starting point. And then let's check. I think this is a nice point right here. Let's kind of check that stair-step pattern. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go up 1 and over 3. So that means the slope on this one is going to be positive 1/3, and the y-intercept on this one is going to be negative 2, our starting point. So this is going to be y equals 1/3 x minus 2. That should be a graph that crosses at negative 2 and has a positive slope that's just slightly steep, hardly just barely above a horizontal line there. All right, so let's take a look at this next one. This is a table, so we've got some data here. Remember, to write the equation of a line, we've got to have a point and a slope. They gave us a special point right here. If you recognize that, that is the y-intercept. Okay, that's the b. And then to find the slope, let's do this. I'm going to find, notice we've got some negatives here. I'm going to avoid those for the time being. I'm going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is going to be a -1 on the top and a 2 on the bottom. So that right there is the slope. Okay, so we've got the y-intercept and we've got the slope. So we've got y equals -1/2 x plus 4, and we're all set to go. Having them give us the y-intercept is that's a huge advantage. If they hadn't given us that, what we would do is we would put a b right here, and then we would pick one of these points to plug in. Again, pick an easy point to plug in, probably fewest negatives and smallest numbers you can. So there we go on that one. Let's take a look at these smiley faces here. We've got to come up with a pattern here. So this is, we've got 2 right here, and we've got those same 2 and then they added 1. We've got those same 3 and they added 1. We've got those same 4 and they added 1. So here's what's going on here. They're basically just putting a smiley face on this this bottom row right here. The top one's staying the same. So this next one would look like this, and I'm not going to do a smiley face, but I am going to do that. We'd have 5 smiley faces along the bottom. Okay, so what that means is the rate of change here, we're going up by 1 every single time. And if you needed to, we could write down in figure 1, there's 2 smiley faces. In figure 2, there's 3 smiley faces. In figure 3, there are 4 smiley faces. In figure 4, there are 5 smiley faces, and so forth. Now, what we can do from there is, if you wanted to, you could find the slope. So let's find the slope using these 2 right here. So let's do 3 minus 2 and 2 minus 1. Now this shouldn't be any surprise. We get a 1 on the top and a 1 on the bottom. We get a 1. So we could write down y equals, this would be 1x plus b. Okay, so we're almost there. And then I can pick one of these to plug in. I'm going to pick this one right here. So I'm going to plug that in. So this is going to be 4 equals 1 times 3 plus b. So let's see, this would be 4 equals 3 plus b, subtract 3, so we get a 1 here. Yeah, so we're in good shape. So there's that right there, and we'll go back and plug it in right in that one. So we get y equals x plus, the y-intercept is 1, the starting point is 1, so there we go. Now, if you followed this pattern, you might notice that a quicker way to do this is to figure out what the y-intercept is or what the starting point is by following these backwards. So if we count down by 1, that would put us at 0, and notice that these are also counting down by 1. So there's our y-intercept right there. There's our starting point if you wanted to do it that way. Okay, either way you're going to get the right answer here, so they're both fine. Jordan had 50 computer games to begin with, and then he gave away 4 per month. So we have to recognize this. That's the starting point, and this right here, that's the rate. So the starting point is 0, 50, or I'm just going to write the 50 right here. So that would just be 50. And then the rate is going to be, since he's giving them away, we've got to have that negative on there. So that's going to be -4 per month. So it's going to be y equals, and on this one, -4x plus 50. Now, it might be a good idea, since we're writing down an equation for a story problem, that we say what these things equal. So x in this case, let's think about this. This was 4 games per month. Okay, so the x is, remember, these are y's on the top and x's on the bottom. So this is going to be months, and y is going to be games. Now, if you think about this, if we were on month 0, right when we started this clock, 0 times -4, this would be 0, that would be 50. He started off with 50 games, and that should make sense. Really good to be able to do that, especially coming up with what x and y represent. I know that can be difficult sometimes, but writing down the rate with the units on the top and bottom can be really helpful. Okay, let's take a look at the back side. This is the slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the given point and has the given slope. Again, like I did before, this one has the slope, so they've given us a huge piece of information, a huge head start on this one, because they said the slope is 3. They didn't give us the y-intercept, but they did give us these points that we can plug in. So that's going to get plugged in here. That's going to get plugged in there. So negative 4 equals, oh, I forgot to put my dotted circle around this. Almost done there. Negative 4, this is a 1 plus b. So this is negative 4 equals 3 plus b. Subtract 3. So we get b equals negative 7. So now that I have the y-intercept, now that I have b, I can come back here and I can say, look, y equals 3x minus 7. Circle that and we're finished. Okay, this one right here, y equals, this would be negative 3/5 x plus b. Again, almost done with that one. I just need to find out what b is. So let's go ahead and plug these in. Negative 4 for y. Negative 3/5 times x, and x is negative 10 plus b. So negative 4. Negative times a negative is a positive. Whoops. And 5 goes in here twice. So this is going to be a 6 plus b. Yep. And then we're going to subtract 6, and we get negative 10 for b. So that means we've got the y-intercept here. So we'll plug that back in here, and then we're finally ready to say what the answer is. It's negative 3/5 x minus 10. So big circle around that. Again, here's all our work, circle our answer. Here's all our work, circle our answer. Let's take a look at the next one. You'll notice it says put it in slope-intercept form, but now we're given 2 points. If you're given 2 points, then we've got to find the slope and we've got to find the y-intercept. So let's go ahead and find the slope here. Let's put the minus in there. Negative 6 minus the 4. Negative 7 minus the negative 2. So this is going to be, let's take a look here, negative 10. This is going to be a plus, so that's a negative 5. So that's a 2. So here's what we've got. We've got y equals, we know the slope is 2, plus b, and then let's pick one of these. This one has 2 negatives and the numbers are a little bit bigger than the first one. So let's plug in this guy right here. So this is going to be a 4 for the y. 2 times negative 2 plus b. So this is 4 equals negative 4 plus b. And this is, let's see, we'd add 4 to both sides. So we'd get an 8 on this side, a b on this side. Now I can take this and then I can plug it back in right here, because I should put that dotted circle right there. So here's our answer. Y equals 2x plus 8. Okay, circle that, and then same thing on this one. So I'm going to find the slope. Put that minus in the formula. 4 minus 0, and then the negative 4 minus the 4. So we get a, let's see, this is a 4 on the top and a negative 8 on the bottom. So we get a slope of negative 1/2. So I'm going to write down y equals negative 1/2 x plus b. Dotted circle around that, keep forgetting that, and then we're going to plug one of these in. This one is definitely the easiest one because it's got a 0 and they're all positive. So we get a 0 when we plug in a 4. So x is 4, so let's cross cancel those. This is 0 equals negative 2 plus b, so we're going to add 2. So we're going to get 2 equals b. Now we're going to take that and we're going to plug it in here. So we get y equals negative 1/2 x, and then the b was a 2. So circle that and we've got our answer. Okay. All right. Really good problems there. Got to be able to do those problems that are 9 through 12. That's really classic algebra skills there. And then let's take a look at this one, 13. Oh, so a little bit easier. It says linear or nonlinear, and is it increasing or decreasing? So this one is definitely not aligned. So we're going to say non-linear. And then this is also going down from left to right. So we're going to say, and it's decreasing. And if you want to abbreviate there, that's totally okay with me. This one is aligned. So this one is linear. And it's going up from left to right, so and it's increasing, okay? So linear and it's increasing, okay? And then it says label the axes and draw a graph that represents a tub that was filled at a constant rate with 60 gallons of water in 8 minutes, left alone for 10 minutes, and then emptied in 4 minutes. Okay, so let's see here. filled at a constant rate with 60 gallons of water in 8 minutes. So let's see. Notice what we've got. We've got some help here. So this has got to be the gallons right here. And this has got to be the minutes right here, because one, the way it's scaled and that sort of thing. And the other thing is, it says if we're filled in 60 gallons in 8 minutes, that would be gallons per minute. So gallons would be the Y. So I'm going to write gals per min. Okay, this is going to be like the Y, and that's going to be like the X. That's one way we can tell. Okay, so it was filled with 60 gallons in 8 minutes. So in 8 minutes, they filled it up with 60 gallons. And it says they did it at a constant rate. So what that means is they did it at a nice steady rate. It was left alone for 10 minutes. So if we got to 8 minutes, that would be at 18 minutes. So right here, if it's left alone, they're not filling it and they're not emptying it. And then they emptied it in 4 minutes. So if we're at 18 right here and it got emptied in 4 minutes, that means they're going to drain it this fast. It's going to be a really steep line that goes down. So if we think of it this way, the water level is increasing. It stays the same for 10 minutes, and then it really shoots out of there. They empty it really quickly. Again, just a quick picture of that is totally fine. And again, if your graph looks slightly different, maybe doesn't end at exactly the same place, that's okay, as long as you've got a good general idea and you're within a point or so. Okay, let's take a look at this last one. It says Carson and Caleb are both collecting video games. Carson's video games are represented by the graph, and Caleb's video games are represented by the equation. Let's see, this should say who had more to begin with, so I'm going to change that. Who had more to begin with, and who was collecting them faster? Explain how you know your answer is correct. Okay, so let's take a look here. Who had more to begin with? Well, if we take a look at Carson, Carson had 10 to begin with. So I'm going to say Carson had 10 to begin. Okay, and the reason we know that is that's the point 0, 10. So I'm going to put 0, 10 on graph. And this is months, and this is video games. Okay. And let's see on this one right here, how many did Caleb have to begin with? Well, one thing that we could do on this one is we could say, look, there's no y-intercept, or in other words, the starting value is 0. Okay, so I'm going to put Caleb had 0 to begin. Whoops, to begin. And the reason we know that is if you plug in a 0, you get out a 0, or in other words, the y-intercept is 0. Okay, so who had more to begin with? Carson had more. Okay, so we're going to say Carson, whoops, change colors here for Carson. Carson had more. And I'm going to put 10 compared to 0. Who is collecting them faster? Okay, well, let's take a look at this. On this, if we're talking about how fast we're doing something, we're talking about a rate. So on Carson, let's figure out what the rate is. That looks like we're about right there. And again, you can't do this perfectly, but that looks pretty good. We're going to rise, and then we're going to run. We're going to rise 5 videos, and take a look at this, in 5 days. So if we do the rise over the run, the slope on this one is going to be, so this is going to be the rise, so that's going to be 5 videos, and then this is 5 months right here, so 5 months. So that means the slope is, if we reduce this, this is 1 video per month. Okay, so we've got that one taken care of. Now let's come over here and let's figure out what's going on this one. I'm going to switch colors so we can look at Caleb. So when we talk about how fast Caleb is collecting videos, what we're talking about is we're talking about the rate at which he's collecting them. So that's going to be the same as the slope. Remember, when somebody says rate, you want to think slope. So on this one, this is going to be 2, and the units are going to be the same as what we have here on Carson's videos. So this is going to be 2 videos per month. So remember, this is like having 2 over 1, so that's going to be 2 videos every month. So what that means is, if it says who is collecting them faster, that means Caleb's collecting them faster because he's doing 2 videos per month versus Carson's only 1 video per month. So we're going to say Caleb is collecting faster. And we'll say kind of the same way we did up above. We'll say that he's collecting them at 2 videos per month versus 1 video per month. Okay, all right, that's it. If you need to do this a couple times, please do. Get whatever help you need, and let's get an awesome score on this test.